11 rings, 11 championships, the most decorated coach in NBA history. Phil Jackson, the Zen Master himself. Case closed, right? Wrong. Because here's the question nobody wants to ask. Did Phil Jackson create dynasties, or did he just manage the greatest players who ever lived? What if I told you that the greatest coach of all time never had the best player? What if rings don't tell the whole story? What if everything you thought you knew about coaching greatness was a lie? 5 men, 5 philosophies, 5 legitimate claims to the throne. The Zen Master, the military mind, the Godfather, the architect, and the modern genius. One of them is the greatest coach who ever lived, and it's not the one you think. Let's start with the obvious choice, Phil Douglas Jackson. 11 championships, 6 with Michael Jordan's Bulls, 5 with Shaq and Kobe's Lakers. The numbers are undeniable. But here's what makes Phil different. He didn't just coach basketball, he coached egos. Michael Jordan, the most competitive human being ever born. Scottie Pippen, constantly in Jordan's shadow. Dennis Rodman, a walking PR nightmare. Shaquille O'Neal, a 300-pound force of nature. Kobe Bryant, an assassin who trusted no one. These weren't just players, they were volcanoes. And Phil was the only man who could keep them from erupting. His weapon, the triangle offense, a system so complex it required total trust and mindfulness, actual meditation. He gave Rodman copies of Nietzsche. He taught Kobe about Native American philosophy. The result, 3 separate three-peats, the only coach in history to achieve this. But here's the lie hidden in plain sight. Phil Jackson never coached a team without a top 5 player in the league. Never rebuilt, never developed a lottery pick into a star. He inherited Michael Jordan, he inherited Shaq and Kobe. So the question remains, did Phil Jackson build greatness, or did greatness just happen to find him? (1970) United States Air Force Academy. A young intelligence officer named Gregg Popovich is learning something that will change basketball forever. Not plays, not systems, but culture. Fast forward to 1996. Pop takes over the San Antonio Spurs, and what he builds isn't just a team, it's a philosophy. The Spurs way. No egos, no drama, no individuals bigger than the team, just winning. 5 championships across 3 different decades. But here's where it gets interesting. While every other team was fighting over American superstars, Popovich was playing a completely different game. He hacked the NBA. Manu Ginobili, a 6-man from Argentina who played like a starter. Tony Parker, a French point guard nobody wanted. Tim Duncan, technically international from the Virgin Islands. Kawhi Leonard, a quiet kid from San Diego State that Pop developed into a finals MVP. 27 consecutive winning seasons, over 1,300 wins. More than any coach in NBA history. But Pop's legacy isn't just wins, it's loyalty. Players don't just respect him, they love him. They come back, they coach for him, they name their children after him. And in 2014, when everyone else said he was too old, his systems were outdated, the Spurs played the most beautiful basketball ever seen, dismantling LeBron's Heat with 30 assists per game. Phil had the best players, but Pop built the best system. Los Angeles, 1980s, the era of excess, and standing on the sideline in a $3,000 suit, slicked black hair and an expression that could cut glass, was the man they called the Godfather. Pat Riley didn't just coach basketball, he sold it. Showtime Lakers, Magic Johnson throwing no-look passes, Kareem skyhook, James Worthy on the fast break. 4 championships in Los Angeles. The most entertaining basketball ever played. But here's what separates Riley from everyone else. He could do both. 1990s New York Knicks. No more glamour, no more showtime, just blood, sweat, and defense. Riley took the same brain that created the most beautiful offense in history and built the most brutal defense. Then Miami, first with Shaq and Wade in 2006. Then the Big Three, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. 2 more championships. But Riley's genius isn't just coaching, it's building. As an executive, he created Heat culture, a system so strong it survived LeBron leaving, a culture that turned undrafted players into rotation pieces, and Jimmy Butler into a finals hero. The only person in NBA history to win championships as a player, coach, and executive. 3 different roles, 3 different eras. One constant, winning. Phil had the rings, Pop had the system, but Riley had evolution. Before Phil, before Pop, before Riley, there was a short, cigar-chomping genius from Brooklyn who invented dynasty. Red Auerbach, the architect. 1950s basketball was slow, methodical, boring. Red looked at it and said, what if we just ran? The fast break, full-court defense, substitution patterns. Red didn't just coach basketball, he invented modern basketball. 9 championships in 10 years, 8 consecutive titles from 1959 to 1966. Let me repeat that, 8 in a row. No team in NBA history has done it, no team in NFL history, no team in MLB history. This is the greatest dynasty in American sports history. But Red's genius wasn't just winning, it was how he won. Total teamwork, no individual stats mattered, just one question, did we win? And in 1950, when America was still segregated, Red Auerbach drafted the first black player in NBA history. Not because it was popular, because it was right, and because Chuck Cooper could play. But here's the counter-argument. The league was smaller, less competitive. Was Red dominant because he was great, or because the competition was weak? The answer? It doesn't matter. You can only beat who's in front of you, and Red beat everyone. "1995, a 24-year-old video coordinator is sleeping in his office, watching film at 3 a.m., making $20,000 a year. His name, Erik Spoelstra, and he's about to prove that greatness doesn't require playing experience, it requires obsession. 2010, LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, the Big Three, the most pressure-packed situation in NBA history, and coaching them, a 39-year-old who'd never won anything. The media destroyed him. LeBron's puppet, Pat Riley's placeholder. He'll be fired by Christmas. 2 years later, back-to-back championships. Then LeBron left. Everyone said the Heat were done. Spoelstra took a roster of cast-offs, undrafted players, and Jimmy Butler to the finals in 2020. Why? Because Spo doesn't just coach, he engineers. Every possession is calculated. Every matchup is studied. Every adjustment is 3 steps ahead. In 2024, NBA coaches voted him the best active coach in the league, not because of rings, because of respect. He turned Duncan Robinson from a Division III player into a sharpshooter, Bam Adebayo from a raw prospect into an all-star, Tyler Herro from a draft night trade into a 6th man of the year. Phil had the psychology, Pop had the culture, Riley had the adaptability, Red had the foundation, but Spoelstra has the future. So, here we are, 5 legends, 5 different paths to greatness. Phil Jackson, the master of psychology. 11 rings, the ego whisperer, but always had the best players. Gregg Popovich, system builder, changed how basketball is played globally. 27 years of excellence, but only 5 rings. Pat Riley, the chameleon, showtime to grind time, player to coach to executive, the ultimate winner across eras. Red Auerbach, the architect. 8 straight championships, invented modern basketball, but in a smaller, less competitive league. Erik Spoelstra, the modern genius, climbed from the bottom. Tactical mastermind, proving greatness in real time. So, who's the GOAT? Here's the truth. If you measure by rings, it's Phil. If you measure by sustained excellence, it's Pop. If you measure by adaptability, it's Riley. If you measure by historical impact, it's Red. If you measure by pure coaching ability, it's Spo. But if I'm building a franchise from scratch and I need someone to create a culture that lasts decades, develop players nobody believes in, and win without superstars, I'm taking Gregg Popovich, because rings measure success, but Pop changed how the game is played, and that legacy, that's forever. But here's the real question. Game 7 NBA Finals. Your team is down by 1, 10 seconds left. Timeout. The entire season comes down to one play. Who's drawing up that play? Phil Jackson, the Zen Master who's been here 11 times, Gregg Popovich, the tactical genius with the perfect system, Pat Riley, the godfather who's won in every era, Red Auerbach, the architect who invented winning, or Erik Spoelstra, the modern mastermind who overcoaches everyone. Drop your vote in the comments right now. Type Zen for Phil Jackson, type Wine for Gregg Popovich, type Godfather for Pat Riley, Cigar for Red Auerbach, or Culture for Erik Spoelstra. And check the pinned comment, I'm breaking down the actual final play each coach would draw up. You won't believe what Pop's secret play is. If you love this, you need to see how these coaching philosophies compare to the GOAT player debate. That video's up next. And if you want more deep dives that challenge everything you think you know about basketball, subscribe, because we're just getting started.